Heroes are an inspiring group of people. Every one of them, from the larger-than-life comic book heroes you see on the big silver screen to the everyday heroes that let us live the privileged lives we do. Every hero has a story to tell. The doctor saving lives at your local hospital, the war veteran down the street who risked his lives for our freedom, the police officers and firefighters who risk their safety to ensure ours. Every hero is special and every story worth telling, but there is one class of heroes that I think is often ignored. The entrepreneur, the creator, the producer, the ones who look at the problems in this world and think to themselves, you know what? I can fix that. I can help people, and I can make a difference. Then they go out and do exactly that by creating a new product or introducing a new service. Some go on to change the world, others make a world of difference to their customers. Welcome to The Hero Show. Join us as we pull back the masks of the world's finest heropreneurs and learn the secrets to their powers, their success, and their influence, so you can use those secrets to attract more sales, make more money, and experience more freedom in your business. I'm your host, Richard Matthews, and we are on in 3, 2, 1. I am here today with Liana Ling. Liana, are you there?
I am here. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Richard.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the Hero Show. Liana is the founder of powerupstrategy.com, which is a digital marketing and online services company that works with B2B clients. She's been doing that for the last 9 years. And you were just telling me a minute ago before we got on the show that you work with visionary clients and you help them to grow their business, get more clients, and basically anything they need for social media, digital marketing, and even agency stuff where you run ads and other things like that. Does that sound about right for what it is that you guys do?
You got it.
Awesome. So when we get right into it, I want to talk about what it is that you are known for. What's your when people think of Liana and think of Power Up Strategy, what do they think about?
Yeah. What I tend to hear from people is two things. Number one, they think of me in terms of providing ROI because I don't just hang my hat on the latest, greatest thing. I force us to take a look at what's actually going to bring return on investment. And let's focus on that. Okay? And the other thing is that I'm very proud of this, is that all my clients see me as a partner. And that's really what I'm known for as well. Whenever I get referrals or meet other people, they tell people what a great business partner I am. And that's what I'm most proud of, because that's really what my goal is to be a partner in crime with them to help them grow their business and reach their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that, actually. I love the idea of being known as a partner. And that's actually, I put some of that language into my own proposals for people. Is like, let's think about the work we're doing together as more of a partnership than, client and provider or something like that, where it's not just an exchange of, cash for services. It's like, let me see how I can partner in your business and help you get to the next level. So it's a really cool thing to be known for.
Yeah, and it's something I intentionally started out doing when I first became an entrepreneur. And I'll even tell people that, hey, my goal is to be a lifetime partner for you. And that's how much ROI I want to deliver to you. And it's pretty much the opposite of what my previous life was when I was a full-time litigation lawyer, because I don't know about you, but most people don't want to have their lawyer hanging around with them every month. So it's really nice now. Here are people. One of my first clients sent me a note and said, "You're a guardian angel. I can't believe you did this for us." It made me cry.
Yeah, and I love that. I still have, like, one of my first services clients is still on retainer with me to this day, and it's been many, many years. So having lifetime customers like that, and you end up being friends, and they invite you over to Thanksgiving dinner and stuff like that. I think that's a great way to run a business, and you're excited to get up and work with your clients every day. I would imagine.
Yes, I am. They definitely keep me going for sure.
Awesome. So as you know, this show is about the heroes, right? I talk about heropreneurs, people like you and like me who get up every day and go out and save the world in our own little ways. So one of the things I want to start off with is your origin story. And I mentioned that every hero has one, right? So this is where you started to realize that you were different. Maybe you had superpowers. Maybe you could use them to help other people, where you started to develop or discover the value you can bring to the world. So what's your origin story, Liana?
Right. So my origin story actually started after I became an entrepreneur. I realized that being in corporate America, it suppressed what my superpowers were, because I felt I was being critiqued all the time for them. And it wasn't until I was an entrepreneur where I started working with other businesses and started getting feedback and then seeing what other people were doing, was when I realized that I was different. I just thought everybody else was either like me or that what I had wasn't that special, you know? Um, until I just started meeting more and more people, and they kept saying that over and over again. So I think the first time, and like I said, it was one of my first clients, and I'll always remember this, and it was a local business. And I came in and, I started creating a plan for them, and do what we normally do. But what really stood out for me was just, I think they stayed on for about 3 years until they went on to a different type of business. But throughout that time, there were so many ups and downs that each time, sometimes I tried to say, okay, I don't know if I'm helping you anymore. And they would say, no, 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 we need you. We love what you're bringing to the table. Like, yes, we're having ups and downs, but without you by our side, we don't even know what we would be doing. Right. And I kept hearing that from people, even today, when I make a mistake, because not everything's perfect. I had one client who said, you know what, I'm fine with that, because I know if I was doing it, I would have messed it up way more than you. Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So people just started giving me that feedback. And I think a lot of us don't think we're good enough. So it took me a while before I kept hearing that over and over again, that I really need to have you on my side. When you're here, you make everything better. Or you lift the standard, because I do have high standards for myself, and I try and bring that to the work that we do for clients. So that's when I started to realize that, and see, the other types of services people are providing. And it really comes down to my core mission, which is, I genuinely care for people, and I treat what I do as a true mission. I really believe that what I do when I'm doing my training, or when we're providing agency services, I believe it really does help people, and that it's my mission to go find the people in the world that I'm meant to serve. I think that
Yeah,
makes all the difference.
and I know, like, your story here with, like, being in corporate America and realizing that you are doing more and providing more, and just like you're just like a different level of human being, so to speak. I actually had one of my because I worked in corporate America for a little while, and the president of the company I worked for actually came to me and told me, he's like, I don't know what it is about you, but like you get 20 times more work done than any of my other employees for the
Mm-hmm.
same time. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I recognized that about entrepreneurs. We're having one really skilled person on your team can just like multifold increase your results. And it's almost like you like having a superhero on your team, right? Because the entrepreneurs like yourself, they come in and you're just an entirely different level of person, and you get more done in less time, with less hassle for people. So
Yes.
it's awesome. So
Yeah.
my next question then is, sort of out of that, you sort of discover your superpowers. Like, what is it you do or build or offer this world that helps solve problems for people? What are, the things that you use to slay this world's villains, so to speak? What is Liana's empower strategy? What's your superpower?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. And it's something that I've given a lot of thought to in the past 2 years. And part of that is a book I read called Business Brilliant, which talks about how the really successful people in the world are good at one thing. And they pretty
Yeah.
much spend their whole life trying to figure out what that one thing really, really is, and then how they can make money with it. So
Yeah.
I used to think it was because it was marketing, because I'm good at it. When I do paid advertising, I get results and people go, wow, I can't believe that. But when I really, really dug deep, I was surprised that wasn't my superpower. So I figured out that my superpower is not just one thing. So again, I'm still working on refining it to one thing, but one thing is I'm really good at mixing together problem solving with the ROI, because I've trained myself to be not frustrated, but I train myself to be curious and creative. So I have a very highly creative side of me as well. So when there's a problem, like an ad's not running or whatever, something is going wrong in marketing or sales, I can bring that to the table. And I think also my legal training has helped accelerate that skill point in me. The
Yeah.
other superpower that I had that I didn't even know I had was that I can find people in the oddest places and fit them in perfectly into a team. So, if we're recruiting for somebody, I'm able to find people in unconventional places, and I'll know how to fit them on a team, where they can shine and where they can do what they do best.
Have you ever found that is really helpful for the services that you offer, being able to help your clients put teams together?
Yeah, so because I don't do recruiting, right? Because people might think, "Oh, you're a recruiter,"
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I think it's indirectly helped me because as I build my own team, that's something that I definitely look out for. And a couple times, like I have a handful of clients where in the past I've been basically like an outsourced CMO and COO. So I've done that where I've actually helped them build the team and cultivate the team just to help develop a culture. So I've kind of done it directly a little bit, but I think it just helps in terms of how I can deliver. And oftentimes, like I said, my clients see me as partners and trusted advisors. So sometimes we'll just have chats about how their team is going and how different things fit in, whether it's a person or a software. And
Yeah.
just going through and figuring out, okay, and this, I know you're awesome at this too, like figuring out what's more efficient, but also what's more effective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I bring it to the table in that sense. It's sort of an indirect superpower, so I'm still learning how to use it best, but I was really shocked when I found out that's what it was.
Yeah, it's like one of those powers you have on the side that you're like, oh, maybe that's actually really valuable to people, and you start to get to use a little bit and see people that they don't always realize that where they need help. And
Yes.
like I know for ourselves, like as we sort of grow in our own, you know, entrepreneur journey, we don't always realize our skills, the skills that we've
Mhm.
developed over the years, and some like, things that we think come easy don't always come easy to everyone else, which is where you can
Yes.
and you can help them. And that's where it's cool because everyone who's listening, everyone who's on this, they all have their own versions of superpowers that are going to come from the skills that you've developed or the experiences you've had over time, and then like you realize that those things and your perspective with those gives you a unique set of skills, which is it's almost exactly what you're describing.
Yes. Yes. And I think we need to tell others around us more about what their superpowers are, because it's hard for us to admit what they are ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you have this podcast because I think it's going to remind me to tell others around me what I think their superpowers are, so that we can encourage them to use them to
Yeah.
solve problems, because they may
I
not
was
realize that's what it is.
I was actually going to say that about you, having known you for a little while now, that one of your superpowers you may not realize is you are very good at seeing the best in people and seeing ways that you can compliment and encourage them and lift them up, which is not like a direct ROI thing, but
Mhm.
it's a really great power that you have and you've probably cultivated over time, and that's another another superpower.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you.
So the other side of superpowers, right? Where
Ah,
hero has superpowers and then they all have their fatal flaw, right? Superman has his
yes.
kryptonite. Myself, I tend to be a perfectionist to a fault, like, won't get things done because it's not exactly the way that I want it. And, I've been known, and my wife teases me about this, to spend hours and hours trying to get a single pixel to go in the one spot in the way I want it, and it won't go it, and realize that like it has no impact on anything. It's just pissing me off, right? So that's my fatal flaw. Being a bit of a perfectionist to a fault. What would you say your fatal flaw is in your business?
So, I'm going to mention that my fatal flaw used to be perfectionism, which I didn't know was a flaw. And I didn't know it until one of my coaches said to me, perfection is the lowest standard you can ever have for yourself. And I was like, what? And he said, because you're never going to attain it. And that's what's holding you back. So it pops up because I know that sometimes when I'm afraid to actually do something, it's because I don't think it's going to be perfect. So
Hmm.
I do have to keep that at bay, but I've done a really good job about just throwing away perfectionism. I think the main one today that that really kind of still follows me around is And I'm going to sound like I'm fishing for a compliment, but I'm not. But it's that I care too much. So sometimes I will get in a mode where I care so much for the people I'm serving, whether it's my direct clients or whether it's, you know, people in any of my online training, that I neglect to take care of myself.
Yeah.
So I neglect to take care of my own well-being. I neglect to take care of my own, you know, just like internal processes, my own business, because I am trying to give 110% to everybody else. And that's really hard for me to dial back, because I know you have to take care of yourself first, because that enables you to take everything to the next level. And
Yeah, that's actually,
so,
and that's a hard one to get over too. Like I struggle
yeah.
with the same thing, where like I call it cobbler son syndrome, right? Where, you know, the cobbler has all of his clients have perfectly good shoes, but his own son has holes in his shoes, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And it's because we give so much to our clients that it sometimes will leave either our own physical well-being, spiritual well-being, or our business, like the actual, you know, working on our business, doing our own marketing and doing our own, you know, platform building and that kind of stuff will get left to the wayside while we spend all of our time working on our client's business. So I get that exactly. That's a difficult thing to overcome. So the question for that, for anyone who is, you know, like myself or any of our listeners who might suffer from that same fatal flaw, how have you been working on rectifying that in your business?
Mhm. Yeah. So it's, you know, a lot of it is surrounding yourself with the right people. I
Yeah.
would, for any, you know, I would just sit and think about the people that you talk to every day, and, you know, what do they represent? Are they somewhere that you are headed, or do they represent where you were? Or do they even represent the status quo? Because one thing I do very intentionally is over the years, I've actually moved around to different types of masterminds or different types of groups of people, not because I get bored of them or I'm mean or something like that. But what I'm trying to do is I'm always trying to position myself with groups of people who are always playing harder than me, because that's where I experience the best growth. And when I get too comfortable, maybe I end up being a mentor in that group, but I'm always trying to find another group that's scaring me to death, right? To be a part of it.
Yeah.
And they're just playing at a much higher level than me. So that's how I kind of look at it that way. Because when I play with people who are playing harder than me, all of them are taking care of themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
so their influence, like they influence me, and I'm honest and say like, this is my problem. And so I do have people who call me out and just help encourage me and all that, just so I don't forget, because I think you need that. You need a community.
Absolutely. So one of the things that every hero has, right, along with their superpowers and their origin stories, they have a common enemy, right? They have someone, the person that they're always fighting against, right? You know, if you're Spider-Man, it's the criminal undergrowth in New York, and it's the thing you're fighting against. If you ever listened to Dan Kennedy, he talks about you know, declaring war on you know, like brand only marketing, right? He wants people to get in and actually do direct response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like Frank Kern talks about, his common enemy is people is people thinking that I'm probably going to get this wrong, but um, that you should do marketing that doesn't equal, you know, I put in $1 here and at the other side I get $2 out. Like that's what he wants to do, is turn advertising into profit.
Right.
So anyways, what would you say your like common enemy, if you could just go into all of your clients' businesses and remove something that would just make their businesses better, what would that be?
That's a really good question. Remove one thing that would make their business better. Well, that, you know what, that's a really good question. Because I think it depends on the person, you know, and it depends on the business. Uh, what I found is, number one, shiny object syndrome. That's
Yeah.
one thing I'm definitely fighting against. I think you and I kind of understand that, because we're both kind of geeks, right? And we love all the tools and the software and everything like that. And sometimes you just got to be like, you know what? It's not perfect. Go with it, right? Because it's stopping you from taking action. And a lot of people just they don't reach their goals, or they're frustrated with themselves. They don't realize it's because they're just not taking any action, because they're, you know, you're analyzing stuff too much, you haven't found the right tool, or you're constantly changing stuff up. So that is
Yeah.
definitely a villain that I fight, because sometimes I'll have to tell clients, I said, look, just you know what, this isn't perfect. Let's just go with this now, and then we'll improve. Especially when it's online. It's not written in stone, right? We're not, so we can change it,
It's crazy. I run into that all the time where people will ask me, because I do training like you do as well. And like, I'll have people like, I'll do a training on, like AKATheAlchemist, which is a CRM tool that people use. And I'll do something, and then I'll have a bunch of people out in the group be like, oh man, like I've got all my stuff built in Drip or Infusionsoft, which are, competitors from, some of the automation standpoint. And my response is always like, there's no ROI in switching tools. The ROI is in actually doing what we were talking about, right? So if you need to modify it and use what you have now, and get something done. Because there's no ROI in changing up your tool set. If you've already got it going. Like if you're starting from the beginning, by all means, take a little time, research, pick the best one. But if you've already got something going, it's easier to change the direction of a moving ship than it is to get a ship going.
That's right. I love that. You're right. It's true. That is so true. And, it's just, it's hard because just some stuff is so enticing and everybody's talking about it. And you just have to be, it's almost like you got to do the Marie Kondo approach to, to their tools and software, right? Just use what you want in your business now and then move on from it. I think like a second villain that I have now that I think about it is really, and I think it's really at the core of a lot of stuff that I fight against, is it's actually not failure. Some people would say it's failure, but it's actually fear of failure. Yeah. Because one thing I've learned in the past couple of years is how to really embrace failure like a gift. That's what I learned from Business Brilliant and working with Louis Schiff is it doesn't feel good, but it's good for you to embrace it as if you're receiving a gift, like a birthday present or a Christmas present. And if I look back at all the issues, like if your team isn't performing well, or, if a campaign isn't running, or like the CEO of one of your clients' companies isn't, doesn't want to do something because they're fearing failure, that's really where it comes up. And then once you get past that and you embrace failure, that's when you really start to grow. Right. And that's when things just magically start to work better because you're more open, you're talking about mistakes, you're learning from it. I mean, it's just amazing.
The whole concept of failing forward, right? Where if you're actually taking those steps and tripping over things, you'll realize where you can step and how you can improve your gait and all those kind of things. You can actually, like I said, you can make adjustments if you're moving.
Yes.
And part of learning is the failure. It's like I got a whole pile of children, and that's one of the things that we constantly are talking about is it's one of the things we say, like, repeat over and over and over again, is it's okay to get something wrong. It's not okay to not try. Right?
Yes.
And because if you don't try, then you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to move forward. And it's like I can see how paralyzing it is, especially for like my son who's like me. That he's like, I just don't want to try it because I might get it wrong. And it's like there's nothing wrong with getting it wrong. Like it's not like I'm going to come out and because we homeschool, it's not like you're going to get beaten because you got it wrong. That's just not the way it works.
Yes. But it's innate, right? Like it's natural for us to move away from failure, And I know that in that study that was the basis of that book, he actually interviewed middle class people versus super successful people, and all the middle class people pretty much they didn't even want to think about it. They want to run away from failure. And then the super successful people, this is what really got me thinking about failure a lot, was they totally embraced it and they talked about it a lot amongst their own close network of friends. So
like you can get up with things, and it's like you and I were just talking before we got on this show. It's like what was all wrong with how the process for getting on the show went, and like I actually take notes on it, and because you can actually make changes and fix things if you're moving and you're doing stuff, because it's not perfect when you start, and it doesn't have to be. And yes, failure is just part of the game, right? It's part of, and that's another good point too, is it's a game, right? The consequences are maybe it takes a couple extra days to get something done. Maybe a client says no, right? Maybe you lose a couple of sales here or there, right? It's not like with the kind of stuff we're doing in business, like if you get it wrong, people die.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Nobody died. Nobody went to the hospital. it's
Like
okay, right?
there are businesses like that, right? Like if you're the engineer that's developing the car and the safety stuff, like if you get it wrong, people die. Like seriously, go for perfection. We're great for that. But most of us are not in those type of businesses.
Yes.
Uh, so failure is an option, and it's an option that you should embrace. So I like that.
Yes.
So that's the enemy side. On the other side, you talked about this a little bit. It's your driving force, your mission, right? So, Spider-Man fights to save New York, Batman fights to save Gotham, Google fights to index and categorize all the world's information. What is your mission? And what drives you?
So what really drives me is helping people who have something to offer the world that just makes the world a better place, and helping them just to get that out there to the right people, because I really believe that we're all meant to serve somebody, and we just haven't found all those people yet. So helping somebody do that with the skill set that we have, the knowledge we have through marketing and sales, I mean, that's what makes me so excited. And that's what also kind of drives me. And sometimes I get in trouble with it because I'll help people and, maybe they can't afford me, or, and we just have very little resources, but I believe in what they offer so much that it's like, dive in, right? It's like, no, we can do this. We can do this.
Make it happen.
Yeah. So that's what, because I feel that like, that's really what a lot of people really struggle against, right? They have something, they know it can actually help people, but the issue is how do you get it out to the right people? Like, how do you get it out to your tribe? How do you, and how do you get it out to the right people that you were meant to serve? And, it's wow, like, I mean, wow, like 10 years ago, it was a totally different world. And nowadays it's much easier to get the message out across the world. And there's different ways of doing that. And there's so much noise out there, unfortunately, that it's hard to pick out what's the wise choices and what's the good stuff that we need to choose.
Yeah. It's like
so,
that what do you call it? There's too many options. It's hard to make a decision. Like they've actually shown studies that like if you present someone with more than like 3 options, their brain like starts to shut down, and the more options you give them, the more shut down they get.
Exactly. And I get so upset when I see somebody buy something that they don't need, or not that it wasn't, I mean, sometimes we buy courses, let's all admit it, right? We buy courses and we don't use them. Right. So, but it gets me all up in arms when I have a friend of mine or a client or just anybody else, they bought something and it's not right for them. The course may be still good, but they invested their hard-earned money. Now they can't invest it in something else because they made the wrong decision, because somebody didn't help them along the way to say, this is what you really need, and this is really what you should have gotten, instead of what you spent your money on. And so that just kind of enrages me a little bit, because again, right, I'm ROI, right? That's not getting ROI out of it. So yeah,
I love that force too. That driving mission, because it hits really close to home for me, because it's almost exactly the way that I feel about my business, is that everyone has a value, right? They have something unique and valuable to share with this world. And like what really stresses me out is like I do a lot of instructional design, and it stresses me out when someone's like really, really good at something, and then they want to teach someone else, and they try to teach, and they don't teach in a way that the other person can get the same results that they want. It's like they've got a really good message, and if they would just learn how to teach, then those people would get better results, right? Their impact would be bigger. And I sort of look at my work like the ripple effect, right? You throw a rock in a pond and you change the pond's landscape forever, right? And I get the opportunity through I call it's a leveraged influence.
Okay.
I may not have a huge influence myself, but through working with my clients, I've had the opportunity to influence tens upon thousands of people that have their lives enhanced and enriched because of the work my clients are doing. So anyways, your mission strikes close to home for me.
Yes, I know you were mentioning earlier today too about how somebody told you this. It says you should always try and leave somebody in a better position than they were. And I think that's really what it's all about, right? It sounds a little bit, out there, woo woo, right? Hey, we want to change the world. But I think we're really, I really do want to try and leave a legacy where, I've actually made a lasting change for the better in the world in some way. And maybe it's because I got to help some of these really special entrepreneurs who I was meant to serve. And like as you said, you can influence many people through that way. So if I can
Mhm.
just be a little bit a part of that, then I'd be very happy.
Awesome. So speaking of shiny object syndrome,
Ah.
most heroes have a tool belt, right? Maybe you have a big magical hammer like Thor, or bulletproof vest like your neighborhood police officer. Or maybe you just really love how, Evernote helps you organize your thoughts, or how you can build killer keynotes and slides in Keynote. What are some of your tools, like tools of your trade, your favorite one or ones that help you do what you do?
Ooh, so I have to choose one, right? That's tough. That's tough.
You could choose a couple if you want, but what are a couple of your favorites?
Well, and just in terms of tools, in terms of getting stuff done, I will tell you that Slack has changed my life.
Yeah.
I know you weren't a
Awesome.
believer before. I don't know if you still are now, but
I've actually started using it a lot, and it's starting to change my life too. So I'm curious to hear this.
yeah. So Slack is, and for those of you who don't know, Slack is sort of like a virtual water cooler, where
Okay.
you can connect with people virtually. So I actually have my internal team on Slack, and they have a pretty good free option as well. And that's another reason I like it, because they just make it accessible to everyone. And having everybody on the team has really impacted the culture that I'm able to create for virtual teams. And I've done this as well with clients. I mean, I have one who said, I can't believe how much we've changed since you've introduced Slack, because before it was just, emailing maybe here and there, everything's just all over the place. I didn't have a central place. Skype isn't, I'm going to be polite and just say Skype doesn't work the best all the time for us. So Slack it was, and we're all in one place. I have a guideline that says, when you come in for your shift, like whenever you come online, jump into the general channel and say, hi, good morning, just like you would in a real office. And it just helps build, just a feeling of camaraderie there. And they have
Yeah.
all these really cool integrations, so that any other thing we're using, like Trello for example, you can integrate it right into Slack. I know people who do their whole customer service inside of Slack. I have something where it pulls in Twitter feed, so we can actually reply and retweet and stuff right inside of Slack, so we can have discussions about it first before I can click send. I even have it pull in my inboxes in there. I have a million different email addresses, and I still haven't found the right emails program that I like to use it in, because I don't like Outlook. So what I did was I actually have it all coming into Slack, and we handle it in there. I can reply in there. I can have somebody go in there and just sort it out for me. I mean, it's so great. So it really has
Yeah,
changed my life.
you're definitely a power user of Slack compared to what I'm using it for. But like I have like the Trello integration set up, so like every time something happens on Trello, it pings the board in Slack, so I get all the notifications there in Slack when something happens.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And like I have my virtual assistants working in Slack, and they started saying hi and everything in the morning, basically because of your recommendation to have them do that, and it's been really good. And I've actually had my some of my project-based people, they hop in and say hi, and like I've got my business partner, so like in the morning everyone says hi, and it's like we're actually getting to know each other better than we ever have before. Even people that I've
Yes.
been working with for a long time, which is cool. So it's like it's definitely a cool like community tool for building your own business, especially if you have more than just yourself that you're having to deal with. But even if it was just yourself, you could hook up all of the other things that you're working on, so you just have like one common dashboard for everything.
Yes, yeah, and it can also work really well as a pop-up. Like, so I've also done it where we were doing events. So we were doing the marketing side of it, and with events, there's so much going on, but a lot of us were virtual. So, for example, my event manager in New York, when he went to visit sites, he would upload a picture, upload a video, and then everybody could comment on it, right? Or when he's actually creating the giveaways, like the swag bags and stuff like that, he would take pictures and load it up, and it made us feel like more of a part of the event, and we could all comment on it. And then we used it too, where we had one where we had a lot of speakers and we lost some of the speakers, so we were saying, okay, who's checked in, who's not checked in, because the interaction there's so quick. There is a bit of a learning curve, but if you set it up properly, it can be really powerful just in terms of getting stuff done, just even from a project perspective.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
one of your future products or case studies should be like how we use Slack to, do XYZ in our business. I think that'd
I
be
think so. I think we should do
'cause
that.
you're definitely a power user, and I feel like I could learn some things from you on how we could use Slack to improve our lives. So so
Yeah.
That's a good tool. I like that. I like that. And for those of you who might be looking for Slack, you can just, believe it's just slack.com. It's free to set it up and try it out. Make sure you download the app too on your phone
Oh
and
yes, it's a
test it
must.
out. It's very useful. And you can get into other Slack groups and just learn things and have a sort of build a community around your own business. So very cool.
Yes.
Are you tired of trying to write webinars that don't consistently convert? How would you like to have a webinar that effortlessly created sales in your online business? You can. Introducing the Webinar Alchemy Workshop. Webinar Alchemy Workshop is an online masterclass that will help you write incredibly persuasive webinars for your online courses quickly and easily. Using what you learn in this class, you can build a webinar that educates your entire audience while still creating sales. For a limited time, you can purchase this masterclass for only $7, and you'll get the exact framework I've personally used to help my clients sell more than $1 million worth of online coaching and training just over the last year. Simply text the word alchemy, ALCHEMY, to 444999, and I'll send you all the details.
The music is by Purple Planet Music. Visit www.purple-planet.com.
Next question is a little more on the heady side here. It's
Okay.
your own heroes, right? So, Frodo had Gandalf, Luke had Obi-Wan, Robert Kiyosaki had his rich dad. Who were some of Liana's heroes? Were they real life mentors? Were they speakers, authors? Were they peers who were just a few years ahead of you? And how important to what were they to what you've accomplished so far?
Yeah. So when I look back over the number of years that I've been a full-time entrepreneur, I've definitely had a lot of people who have influenced me, but when I pick up the top ones that I look back that I think were they really were, I think, life-changing in a way where they really turned you around. So
Yeah.
the first one was, and some of them are just, I guess I would say from a celebrity perspective. The first one was when I literally got dragged to go to a Tony Robbins event. And I know he's controversial and not everybody loves him and, so there's issues there. But why that was so key to me and why I think he's one of my very first heroes there was the tools that I learned and the approaches that I learned from there, whether or not you like the guy or not personally, but what he taught there, it really was a turning point in my mindset for being an entrepreneur. I had a lot of other issues coming in, moving from lawyer to entrepreneur. You've got identity issues, you've got imposter syndrome, you have all these different things. And going through that event, learning how to always be at peak performance, and also just taking out those old stories that are just limiting you. I didn't realize I had limiting beliefs. Believe it or not, one of the limiting beliefs I had, and I haven't shared this before publicly, but one of the limiting beliefs I had that I dealt with at the Tony Robbins event was that I always felt that I wasn't smart enough. So I always felt like maybe I just scooted through into law school, which if you look at the numbers, it's not true, but that's what I'm thinking, right? I'm not smart enough to be here. When I'm in a room of other entrepreneurs, I'm not as smart as them. I'm not, so I can't participate in what they're doing, and so that just got me. And people say that's crazy, right? Because you just your whole background, especially when they hear that I went through law school, right? You usually think those people are smart. But that was a limiting belief I had, and I had to smash through that and be more. And he also showed me how to be more intentional about serving people and just being more open. So that was really one of the key things, and why I still go back to the training that I learned from there. I still go back to my materials because I still have to remind myself about that. So that was definitely one of the heroes that I had for a bit that started me off. Two other heroes I have that I wanted to share was, for a couple years, I was able to work with Lewis Schiff, who wrote the book Business Brilliant. And I like that book so much because it's based on numbers and research. It's not a story about, hey, I built a $10 million business and this worked for me, and then you're trying and apply that to your life and it doesn't work. What I loved about it was this was actual data that said, this is what makes you successful. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't applied the principles in that book. It just makes sense. I even helped create a course around that. And a lot of the things in there, like embracing failure, how you handle your network, just the little things in there that are very counterintuitive to most of us. just focusing in on that made me a much better entrepreneur than I am today than I was before. So when I had that in my life for a couple of years, that again took me to the next level, from there.
And how do you spell his name if people want to look up Lewis Schiff?
It
Business Brilliant.
is Lewis, like Lewis, and Schiff, Schiff. And the book is called Business Brilliant. I don't know if you can buy the hard copy still, but I think you can get it on Kindle. I would highly recommend it just because, like I said, it's based out of data. So how can you argue with that, right? In terms of this is like what makes people successful based on, research. And the third person who made a big difference in my life is a gentleman named Marvin Email, who was my very first sales trainer, and who introduced me to this whole concept of Tiger tools that I know I have made you sit through many times, Richard. And I also some because, like I said, this was when I came into being an entrepreneur. Yes, I had been a lawyer for a while, litigation lawyer. I would fight tooth and nail for you in the courtroom. My goodness, right? But when it came to my own business, I felt so inadequate. And I'm a systems person. I've always been a systems person. So he taught us a system that I thought was crazy. First of all, I'm like, I'm never doing this. And then by the end of the training, I'm like, this is brilliant. And I just started using it. And again, it changed my life because to this day, it changes and formulates the way I communicate with my clients, with people day to day, and with sales. Like, it turned me into being afraid of sales and dreading going out on sales calls to loving it, and just getting a high from it.
Business.
Yeah. And I mean, I never even wanted to say I was a salesperson. That was a dirty word, right?
Yeah.
And it really made a big difference just because it was something I need that structure for myself. I need a system that I can rely on. I don't want to do spray and pray. I don't want to just hope and pray that something's going to work out. I need to follow something that's proven. And then when I've taught it to other people and they've used it and then they've had results, that just makes my week. Oh my goodness,
And sales is such an important part of everything we as entrepreneurs do, right? A lot of people, a lot of people have that limiting belief that sales is a dirty word. And
yes,
when you realize that sales is not only not a dirty word, but it's actually one of the most empowering and joyful parts of what you do, because sales is the medium by which you impart your value to other people, right? That's it. Without sales, you don't get to give other people your value, right? You don't get to deliver your superpowers or any of those things. You can't help other people if you don't have sales. So sales is like, it's a conduit for good in this world. And I think it's such a great thing to know that. And actually, you actually do some training on that, which we'll talk about in a little while. So if you're struggling with that, we'll talk how you can get access to some of her training on that, because it's really, really good. But I have one final question for you after personal heroes are, and then we'll get to how people can learn a little bit about sales training from you. And that is your guiding principles, right? What are the top 1 or 2 principles or actions that you used regularly, or you use even today, right, that contribute to your success, and that have contributed to the influence that you enjoy with your clients and with your marketplace, and maybe something that you wish you had like a principal when you started out?
Yes. So I think that one of the guiding principles that I have is it's what some people call a mindset of abundance versus scarcity. And I think that comes out of being raised to be generous and really embracing that true generosity to everyone that I meet, whether they do business with me or not. And it's not being a doormat to people, which is what I think some people think it is, but it's about serving people. And as I said, having this mindset of abundance. So that means to me that when I go out and meet with somebody, if I go and, maybe I go to a networking event, I'm not thinking, oh no, there's so many people here, there's not enough clients to go around. So then you act differently when you feel that way, right? As opposed to, there's enough business to go around for everyone. What can I do to help us raise the tide for everybody together. You know, you're going to do something so different that way, and you're going to make different choices based on that. Same thing with how you grow your business, because again, if you have a scarcity mindset, you're going to keep everything in. I forgot who said this, but it really struck me. They said, don't play to not win, like, or don't play to not lose. That was it. Because playing to not lose is a scarcity mindset, right? But playing to win is an abundance mindset. And you're going to make those decisions because as we were talking about earlier today, how would you feel if you lost one of your biggest clients? Would you freak out and be like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I'm not going to be able to get another client that way? Or would you feel confident that there's plenty of people in the world, you just have to get your message? Like, I love how you said sales is a way to impart your value. You have to get that message out to the right people, and they're there. And I know when I fall back into scarcity mindset, I have a friend and we catch each other. We're like, hey, wait a minute, right? Scarcity, get out of that mindset. Things change. And I've noticed that in the last, just month where, I've been doing some things with yourself. I've been doing some wonderful collaborations with Drew and David in Delicious Marketing. And we're all focused on helping each other, just being completely 100% generous. And wow, I am seeing explosions in our businesses from that. You know, it's incredible. So I can't go on enough about how that's such a principle.
Into that that mindset too. And when you really think about it, the scarcity is such a limiting thing. And it changes how you act and how you think and how you work with people. And when you go into abundance and you realize, like, it's like one of the things that I do regularly when I talk to my clients is they'll always ask me, like, what about competitors, this, that, or the other thing. And like, I'll spend my time when someone asks me about, competitors for this, that, or the other thing. I'll build them all up, right? Like, here's all the reasons why you should hire that person instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or that group of people, or, even if it's they're just comparing people in the marketplace. And it's like, there's personality fits sometimes that go with tools or with service providers and things like that. It's the person that works well with me may not work well with someone else who does exactly the same type of work, right? And there's room for both of us, or all of us. There's 7 billion people on the planet, right?
Yes.
There's space for you and for your value, and there's someone out there that is waiting to hear your story and your perspective. And that's what abundance is about, is that we need more heroes in this world, right? We need more people like you who are stepping out and doing something with their story, with their superpowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, when I think about it, I think that's one of the most foundational concepts that I bring into everything, whether I'm building my own team or, also working with clients. And the second thing is the other principle that I think I live by is something I learned from my mom, which she has her PhD in education, and she got that after, we were all grown up and things like that. It's kind of amazing. But she calls it September learning, and other people call it continuous learning or education.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly in that mode of embracing continuous learning and continuous education. If you want to always position yourself as the dumbest person in the room, you're going to learn so much more than just being there and spouting off all your wisdom to other people who are just, going to stroke your ego and say like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Right. I'm constantly seeking, new ways to do things. Like, how can I master being an entrepreneur better? How can I master being a better relationship person? Like, I actively seek out, this continuous education or continuous learning. That's curiosity.
I love that. And it's also something that, like, as you get more and you get further into your entrepreneur journey with whatever it is that you do, sometimes you'll get to a point where, like, the things that you do, you're world class at, right? Like, there's not a lot of people that are better than you.
Yes.
And then you realize that, like, if you ever get to that point where one of my mentors mentioned that if you you don't ever want to get ripe, right? You don't want to ripen, because then after you ripen, after you're done, then you start to rot, right? So you always want to be in a place where you're growing, right? Where you're getting better. So, like, if you get to the point where you are really, really good at some things, you still have other areas that you can go and work on. Like you mentioned, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's team building, maybe it's other things. It's other aspects of your business that you can go and start surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you, or surrounding yourself training that is going to push you and make you grow as a person.
Yes.
And you'll never run out of things that you can work on, that you can make yourself better and stronger at.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, and if you take a look at the most successful people in the world, I think, and you have a chance to go talk to any of them, if you can give them a new idea or something new that they can learn about, I think you just see their eyes light up, right? Because it's, okay, here's something else I can dive into. And then they're thinking, how do I mirror that with what I'm really good at and, integrate it with what I already do. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I have two last things. They're short. They're not real long questions. One of them is what I call the Heroes Challenge. And the Hero Challenge is just a simple question. Do you have someone in your network that you think I should invite onto the show because they have an interesting story and an interesting entrepreneur's journey that we need to sort of pull back their mask?
Oh, I do. So do I reveal it now or do we keep it as a secret for later?
We'll go ahead and reveal it, and then I'll show him the episode. We'll send it to him and be like, hey, Liana said you should be on the show. So, that's going to be our bait.
Okay.
Okay. Come on. So who do you think we should get on the show?
I think you should interview this entrepreneur who, she has this quality about her, and I think you'll see it once she starts to speak and spout her wisdom. Her name is Amber McCue, and she's actually moved around the world now. She's actually living in Ethiopia now. She was in Maryland, and she is incredibly insightful at helping people grow their business. She's on my speed dial when I'm spinning my wheels, and she can do it so quickly. Like, you think like, oh, 5 or 10 minutes with Amber, what's that going to get you? I've been like spinning my wheels and talking to her 5-10 minutes, boom, problem solved. She just turns me right around, with what she does. It's really quite incredible. And just the whole attitude and how she approaches life is amazing. She's got 3 kids, and they moved from her. She's been telling her story recently because she moved from Maryland to Ethiopia, but in between it was a very long journey to get there. I think they spent like several months just going in and out of different Airbnbs, and just how she embraces life. I can tell you that one thing I learned from her, which I just adore, is she says to people, we read a lot of stories about people doing this and that, right? Oh, he made $1 million in 10 minutes. And, oh, he's got like 6,000 followers now on Instagram and stuff like that. And then what ends up happening is we get major FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Yeah. And what she says is her thing is, she says, you're always right on time. And I get shivers sometimes when I say that, because it's so true. When I look back, I think, wow, like if I had made another turn, I would never have gone to Nashville and met you, Richard, and met all these wonderful people and just doing all the amazing things we're doing. I just wouldn't have. And that's because I was right on time, and I can look back at so many decisions I made where I was worried that everybody else was ahead of me. I was like, nope, it wasn't my time. And once I accepted that, then I just focus on what I need to accomplish today, next week, and magic happens. So I think he's a hero.
Going to the other things, because we travel full time in an RV and everything. So I like that. Sounds like we need to get her on. So last thing is, where can people find you? And I know we were just talking about this earlier. You do some really, really fantastic sales training. And you can help people learn how to make that conduit, right? To provide their value, something that is just, it'll blow them out of the water if they really learn how to make that good. Where can people find you, learn a little bit about your training? If they want to hire you for helping grow their business, where should they look?
Sure. So my website is powerupstrategy.com. But what I'd like to do is offer your listeners access to my free training, which is Tiger Tools, which we kind of talked about. And I'd like to offer that first complimentary. And you can go to tigertoolstraining.com. And if you go to there, you'll be able to access it for free, and you can jump into that training. What that actually does is it helps you to basically develop rapport in the sales process. And I know we don't have a lot of time to go into it right now, but the people who have taken just that part of the training and they've applied it have a lot of them see an increase in their sales closing rates, like as soon as they do it. I mean, I know one gentleman, he applied just a few of the tools, and like the next day he closed a $15,000 deal, and then a couple days later he closed 2 more deals, and so it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that's training is free, so the ROI on that is ridiculous. You can't put a number on it, just whatever an hour of your time is worth. And I actually I had the privilege of hosting that training with Liana, so I can tell you firsthand, it is really, really good stuff. So if you have an opportunity, check out tigertoolstraining.com, and it should just be a masterclass registration, like name, email address, and I think it's about an hour 20-minute training.
Yes.
But you'll walk away with a really, really good skill set for learning how to use sales in your business in a very powerful way.
Yes, for sure. And you'll be able to take what you learn there and apply it right away.
Awesome. So that is it. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Liana. I really appreciate it. I love getting to sort of talk through your hero story, and I look forward to, maybe the next time we get to have you on.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed our time so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. And for the rest of you, we'll see you on the next episode.